Tom Rooke is going to speak for us. He's actually a good friend of a person I went to high school with that's up at Mayo. He's co-director of the Gonda Vascular Center, professor of medicine. He's actually the John and Posey Crabell Professor of Vascular Medicine. He's Consultant Division of Cardiovascular Diseases, Department of Internal Medicine at the Mayo Clinic. He received his medical degree at Hopkins, his internship and residency at the Mayo Clinic, and his fellowship in cardiovascular medicine at Mayo. He's author of The Quest for Cortisone. Someone went to your talk at the ACE, told me that this was an incredible talk, and he's going to talk to us about the quest for cortisone.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. If my clothes look like they were slept in, it's because they were. It took a whopping 26 hours to get from Rochester, Minnesota to here. Thank you, Delta. All right, well, in the way of disclosures, I'll just tell you that I do write books. I write kids' books, and I have written a book on the discovery of cortisone, so if you buy one, I guess I'm conflicted on this whole thing here. Who is the smartest rheumatologist in the room? Quickly. Ma'am, could you point out the smartest rheumatologist for me? He is. All right, sir. Well, this 72-year-old man has bulging, painful temporal arteries. And all of a sudden he can't see. What's going on? The man in the back says he has temporal arteritis. Oh, well, temporal arteritis. No, that was a good guess, but actually the reason he can't see is because I put this thing over his eyes. It's like a HIPAA violation if I don't. But it's curious because, in fact, he also does have temporal arteritis. Gosh, go figure. What were the odds of that? But he's not going to go blind, is he? He doesn't go blind in this setting, and he doesn't go blind because we're going to give him something. We're going to give him some steroids here. There's not a person in this room who hasn't used one of these drugs up here. I should point out that their doctor recommended as well, so this is the absolute best thing you can get. The steroid drugs, but cortisone in particular, are the biggest selling drugs of all time, the biggest money-making drugs of all time, and probably, arguably, the most important medication of all time. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, the discovery of it. This is a fascinating story, and I'm going to tell you a lot of little stories about it. I'm going to tell you stories about the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. I'm going to tell you some stuff about the Nobel Prize. And we're going to talk about two individuals, Kendall, our chemist, and the hero of our story, the rheumatologist, Dr. Hench. These guys were polar opposites. They were both brilliant and quirky in their own way, and I think by the time we leave tonight, you're going to agree that arguably they might be the two least likely people to ever win a Nobel Prize. I notice we have some spouses and some non-physicians tonight. Please do not be intimidated. This is not going to be a technical talk, and I'm going to have stuff for everybody in here. I can't leap right into my story, though, without giving you a little bit of background. And the background starts at this place, Guy's Hospital, London, England, the mid-1800s. The three great physicians there are Hodgson and Bright, and this man, Addison. And Addison is probably the greatest of all of them. He's the first to describe pernicious anemia, first to describe appendicitis, and he also describes adrenal failure. And back in these days, doctors knew that the adrenal glands existed. They just didn't know what they did. They were thought to be some kind of vestigial organ. Well, in London in the mid-1800s, if you lived there, you died of tuberculosis. That's what everybody did. They coughed up a lung. Addison noticed that a small subset of his patients with tuberculosis didn't die that way. They lost their appetite, they turned gray, they wasted away. And Addison had a trait about him. He tended to do his own autopsies, which was things that nobody did in London at that time. And when he autopsied these patients, he found that those vestigial-looking adrenal glands were, in his words, the size of a hen's egg.